Caution to the airwaves. We are back. Feels like summer is back as well. We got a full week of 90-degree weather coming up ahead here in beautiful New York. Just had a little taste of fall, little chilly nights happening, but now it feels like summer is back in full effect. But I'm going to enjoy this weather while it's here because in no time it's going to be the dead of winter, and no one appreciates that here. So what else is going on? I mean, we are coming off a great fight card, UFC Paris. First of all, let me just for a split second give a round of applause for the Paris crowd because they deserve it. Felicitacion. That crowd was lit, and probably one of the best crowds I've ever seen since watching the sport. You know, it was just like that European soccer crowd feel where they're just chanting and singing in unison, and they just had their own songs going. It was really a beautiful thing. It was a special thing, and this is only the second time UFC's been in Paris. Last year was the inaugural Paris card, which was because, similar to New York not too long ago, Paris had MMA as illegal in their country. New York also had some laws against it, but that's all corruption shit. It really has nothing to do with the sport. It's just like, it's a political thing, and you know, I'm not going to pretend to know the exact reasons why, but it's all comes down to money and politics. But yes, we are also going into a pay-per-view fight week headlined by this man, the style bender, Israel Adesanya, taking on Strickland. And I thought it was fitting to break out the animal wardrobe in support of the African fighter Israel Adesanya. I mean, you know, not to be like I'm like full-fledged against like Sean Strickland or anything, but if I'm gonna pick someone to root for in this one, it's probably gonna be Adesanya, and not probably, it just is. And also, well, I guess I don't want to divulge too much. We're gonna get into the breakdown for that pay-per-view card, but all I'll say is I'm not sure if I see any sort of avenue that Sean Strickland can win this fight, but we'll get there in due time. First, let's talk about this UFC Paris card. It was a special one, headlined by Ciryl Gane and Sergey Spivak, the heavyweights. Ciryl Gane obviously coming off that hard L to John Jones in the first round, just pretty much got choked out very easily. And now this is his return fight against another grappler, Sergey Spivak. Spivak is a known specialist when it comes to the wrestling. That's more of his style. Likes to take you down, likes to do a little damage on the floor. Does have power in his hands, standing, which we got to see a little bit of that in this fight. Love his nickname, the Polar Bear. This man has we'll post a picture of him. Finger up for gesture. I'm going to stop saying that. Polar bear. He has a polar bear tattooed on his chest with a cage behind it, which I just think is so funny and fitting. I know my brother loves the polar bear. Every time I bring up Sergey Spivak, I'm like, yeah, Sergey Spivak's my brother. He's always like, oh, the polar bear? So everyone knows him as the polar bear. But yeah, the polar bear came into this fight seemed a little timid and malnourished because he seemed a little, like I said, timid. He was a little fearful of Ciryl Gane's striking abilities. He did throw one solid takedown attempt that got stuffed ultimately, which was very nice on Ciryl Gane's part. Showed his improvement in his takedown defense. And from that point on, Ciryl Gane just really, really picked him apart beautifully. Like an artiste, you know, like a Frenchman would, just patient and methodical, and you know, just a little touch here, a little body shot there, another body shot there. A lot of body shots in this one. Body shots were raining down on Spivak in this one, as well as, you know, a couple shots up top. I feel like he just mixed it up so well. It was very Max Holloway-esque in just in the ability to mix it up and open up shots. It was almost as look at. Oh, Okay, I was gonna say, I just was reading the stats here. It says 110 out of 157 he landed. That's at 70% accuracy. But personally, you watch that fight, it really felt like he didn't miss once. Like, it felt like 100% accuracy in that fight. I can't wait to go back and rewatch it. I wanted to do that this morning. On a little bit on a time crunch on this Sunday, but it's okay. We're here and we're gonna get it done for your viewing pleasure, all two of you. Hey, Mom. And yeah, so I mean, that was really the name of the game until eventually the body shots just added up on Sergey and ultimately just folded him to his demise. And then he just rained down some pretty hard shots, and then the ref had seen enough and just had to step in and save him. Impressive performance by Ciryl Gane, and nice to have him back in the win column. Now, someone was in attendance for this fight, and I believe it should be his next fight, and that would be Tom Aspinall, another European superstar, heavyweight, obviously, out of England, and that fight would be bananas because they are both just some high-level strikers with movement like you've never seen heavyweights have. Just light on their feet and just bouncing around, and just the movement is just so beautiful to watch. And you know, that gets underrated sometimes. You know, to the untrained eye in this sport, sometimes you may see a lack of activity in the striking or whatever it may be, takedown striking, but sometimes you can appreciate their movement. Like, sometimes fighters will not be throwing, but the way that they're moving around each other, you could just like, if you know what you're looking at, you know that you're watching like some real strategic movement. But in order for it to be strategic, you have to be good at it. So it takes years and years and years and to develop good movement and, you know, experience and comfortability. That's how you develop movement. And sometimes, like, there could be a lack of activity, but it's still exciting because you're seeing the movement, and you could see that they're just moving to build opportunity, and you can almost see that there's a little chess match in movement in itself. And if you know what you're looking at, it's a beautiful thing to watch, and eventually you see that movement come to fruition for what it's made for, which is to find that open shot and you know, deliver. And when dudes have movement, it happens just like that, and it really is. It's like this is mixed martial arts, and that in itself is art. The sport is very artsy, like the movements, the athletic ability in some of these guys. It's out of control. So I think that needs to happen. I mean, there's nothing else I'd rather see. What are you gonna do? You can't give him a title shot. He just lost. And I got to give a shout out. I think his name is Javi Picks or something. I would love to have this guy on one time. He's been posting these Instagrams lately of, like, it's a lot of betting based and kind of breakdowns. And I thought he had a great video after this fight that he put out, pretty much just breaking down like what's like the path that Ciryl Gane needs to take in order to get back to the belt. And it's basically, essentially, it was like, you got to do Tom Aspinall, because if it's not Tom Aspinall, the only other contenders that are out there are Jailton Almeida, who's taking on Curtis Blades, and those guys are both some of the best grapplers in the UFC, which is Ciryl Gane's downfall. And if you don't fight Tom Aspinall, who's right there for a title shot, and the winner of that could easily get the title shot, will get the title shot if that fight happens. If you don't take that fight with Tom Aspinall, you're going to fight the winner of that fight, and that does not benefit Ciryl Gane, that matchup between either of those two. So, especially Jailton Almeida, who is, I'm assuming, is probably going to win just because how impressive he's looked lately. So I can't wait for that one too. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Interesting to see how Jailton Almeida's grappling will do against Curtis Blades, but that's for another week. Coming up soon too. I think it's either next month. I think it's September or October. So yeah, I think Tom Aspinall is the fight to make, and that might be one of the most entertaining heavyweight fights ever in the sport. the sport is evolving, and when the heavyweights are looking this good and fluid and light on their feet, it's out of this world. I mean, I really don't even have the words to explain like what a 280-pound guy could move like a freaking ballerina and throw like a lightweight, and it's something else. Little technical difficulties going on behind the scenes here today. Tell you what, we were just talking about how cheap you can get a nice TV for these days, and I think we can see why. I think they're really they have like a year's lifespan on them, and then you got to just get another one. But thank God they're cheap. So yeah, the co-main event. Speaking of movement, Manon Fiorot taking on Rose Namajunas and Thug Rose, of course. And this was an unfortunate one because Thug Rose seemed to have hurt her hand in like one of the first exchanges of this fight, and I'll post a picture too of her hand after the fight. Shout out Ariel Hawani posted the picture. Excuse me. And her fingers, she looked like she had like 3 broken fingers. It looked pretty gross. And she just couldn't throw her right hand, and still did a very good job. And Manon Fiorot was just able to take advantage of the one hand situation and just kind of overwhelm Rose with some shots. But Rose, again, like using her beautiful movement to avoid danger. I tweeted this out during the fight. It was impressive to see that even Rose with one hand. I don't know what's going on. Maybe just try to like prop it up next time you turn it on, or yeah, like I don't know, like just toy with the positioning of it or something. I don't know. Worst case, if it shuts off, we'll just leave it, and then you just flip me the other monitor, and then whatever. But yeah, so I tweeted in this fight that it was impressive to see Rose use her movement even with one hand in order to avoid danger and avoid these heavy shots that were coming her way. And yeah, I mean that's what's possible with good movement. So even when you're compromised, you have one arm, you're fighting a professional mixed martial artist who's at the top of the division, ready for a title shot, hungry as can be, in her home country, from France. Manon Fiorot, who's a dangerous girl, with good movement you could still avoid and protect yourself and defend yourself. So even beyond the sport, you know, it's always good to learn some martial arts. I was about to say it looked good for a second. Whatever. I'm not gonna let it. It's like at this point it's just getting distracting. Just let it be, I guess. So yeah, it was unfortunate. Rose hurt her hand. She did very well, kept it close regardless, but ultimately it just, you know, you can't put too much volume out when you have one hand, and that ultimately led to her taking the L. There was a bad clash of heads at one point in this fight. Manon Fiorot really opened up on the side of the head. It was a little bit of a bloodbath. Yeah, so let's move on to the next fight, though, because I guess to sum that one up, Manon Fiorot, approaching a title fight. And again, if I had to say what's going to happen next on this one, I'm going to assume that she is probably going to fight Erin Blanchfield, and the winner of that will fight the winner of Valentina Alexa Grasso. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a great matchup. I would love to see that. Erin Blanchfield just coming off that impressive comeback win over Tyler Santos, who's a very game opponent in her own. I broke that down. And go check it out if you want. Any of these fights that you like, pretty much any full fight card, prelims, I pretty much touch on to a point where if you ever are interested in hearing my opinions or thoughts on any fight, if you want to find the week and find the podcast, it's there. And I like to think that I have pretty good analysis on fights and fighters. So, I mean, if you're interested in my thoughts, go check it out. But so this one, I can't wait to... Yeah, so Manon Fiorot should fight Erin Blanchfield. Winner should fight the winner of Grasso, Valentina, just to sum that one up. And that's coming up very soon, too. September 16th, I believe it is. Buenos UFC, which is on... what's it called? Mexican Independence Day, but they're doing it in Vegas. And Alexa Grasso, obviously the new champion, beating Valentina Shevchenko, Mexican fighter who trains in Mexico. And there's going to be a lot of hype on that card, a lot of Mexican fighters in that card, a lot of Mexican crowd will be in attendance. And that's going to be an exciting crowd as well. So maybe Paris has a little competition for crowd of the year when we'll see what that one holds. So moving on, this fight had to have been fight of the night, or at least performance of the night. Benoit Saint-Denis. This guy is a fucking monster, and I'm going to tell you why. He took on Thiago Moises. Thiago Moises is a well-rounded veteran, just highly talented mixed martial artist, has been in there with the best of them, has beaten some of the best of them. And Benoit Saint-Denis came into this one with like no respect for Moises's accolades and his ability and skill and his jiu-jitsu, his grappling, just no respect. He came in like a madman, put the pressure on him, and just let some bombs. And they weren't just like some wild loopy bombs. Maybe some of them when it was getting sketchy, but he I guess again, another French fighter. If you couldn't tell by his name, Benoit Saint-Denis. He just came in like a bat out of hell and just really put the pressure on Thiago Moises in a way I've never seen anyone do to Thiago. And Thiago was firing back. We were talking about this too. I love when a good fighter, when they don't just shell up and let people throw bombs. They shell up, but they wait for that moment and return fire in the heat of battle, in the heat of an exchange. And that's usually like a good composed fighter that can do that. And Thiago was trying his best to really get that respect by landing a shot. And he landed a couple that dazed Benoit. But ultimately, Benoit just kept on pressing it forward and just did not let up the whole entire time. It was a banger of a fight. Saint-Denis is the future. I mean, I thought this was, I could have sworn Thiago was a welterweight, but finding out this was a lightweight. Benoit Saint-Denis is a huge lightweight too. He just looked good, man. He just looked good. And there's really nothing more to say. He really just dominated. This guy is a huge prospect and has the ability to be a superstar possibly, especially from the European side of the world, the UK. And yeah, France has another big fighter attached to them. And the mouse was pulling up like the news. Also, I just saw Joe Biden with glasses on, like talking. Yeah. So speaking of bangers, moving on, Volkan Ozedmeir took on Bogdan Guskov, and Bogdan Guskov, new fighter, dangerous fighter. A lot of his highlights were just some crazy knockouts. This dude is no joke. But Volkan Ozedmeir is a grizzled vet. And Volkan Ozedmeir really just really like, I've always been a fan. And there's no reason not to like Volkan. The guy, he's a good guy. Fights out of Switzerland. And has just been in there also, like with the best of them. Has had title shots. I mean, he's fought DC, he's fought freaking Rakic, who's beat Rakic. It's a guy that's been in there with the best of them and has beaten like half of those people that were the best of them. And Volkan has just impressed me big time in this fight. Just a young, scary prospect coming in on and this dude was obviously powerful and it was a boxing background, had great striking ability. But Volkan was switching up well, good leg kicks, and again another one of these where they just got in close and just would let it go. And Volkan was just getting the best of the exchanges, and ultimately just led to a KO win, and over a dangerous guy. And Volkan, man, I just gotta say that I just want to give him his flowers because he's been around, he's had some hardships, and he's also had some great moments. But this was another great moment that he added to his resume. This dude is a fighter through and through, and Volkan Ozedmeir just gets nothing but respect from me. And I just can't say enough nice things right now. I mean, sometimes he goes under the radar and he gets forgotten about, and then when he comes back up, he's fought injuries in the past. It's always unfortunate when that happens. He's a exciting guy to watch. Every fight he's ever in is a banger, and he's always going to test you. So I just felt like he deserved his flowers, and I just want to say how much I respect that guy. Really. Moving on, we had William Gomis, who I did pick in my picks. I also picked Volkan Ozedmeir, for the reasons that he was the veteran, more experienced, and battle-tested. And that's exactly how he won that fight, too. I mean, no big deal. No big deal. But I did good with my picks on this one, for sure. Except for the Rose Namajunas, because she had the hand injury. And I'll tell you what, if Rose did not have that hand injury, she would have won that fight. So I'm very happy with my picks on this week. William Gomis, another French fighter, took on a short notice fight against Yarnis, how do you say Gamori? Oh yeah, that's what Yanis Gamori, who is another French fighter as well. You could just tell too when it was two French fighters fighting. This is the one fight where the crowd slowed down and was not as loud, which is weird because the fight was pretty entertaining. But you could just tell that they just were indifferent. They couldn't cheer for one person, so there's something about that. They didn't want to cheer for one French guy over the other. But William Gomis, impressive prospect in his own as well, and had an impressive. Oh, this one I'm just remember. By the way, I'm going off no notes to this week. Like I said, a little time crunch thing. Had to start early. No notes off the top of the head. So if that doesn't tell you that I know what the fuck I'm talking about. No. Let me stop sucking my own dick now. I just like to get, sometimes you gotta let them know. But William Gomis, impressive fight all the way through. Was on his way to a secure victory by decision, but there was a weird. This was a controversial moment in the third round. He threw a kick that did scrape the cup, and then Gamori went back as if to say like it was a low blow, kind of was holding like oh, and then the ref kind of thought it was a legal shot, and the way he was bent over and everything, the ref just all of a sudden just calls the fight and just stops the fight. And really it's like, come on, like you got to have patience. Like the guy's holding his cup, he's bent over. Whether you think it's legal or not, you got to either yell like legal shot, keep fighting, or you got to stop it, check the replay, or whatever you got to do. But he just stepped in and stopped the fight, and that's just not what you're supposed to do as a ref. And Gamori was very upset about it. The foot did touch the cup, so ultimately I think it could have been called a cup shot. Maybe give him some time. I don't think he was going to come back or win or anything, but ultimately the guy who was going to win won anyway. But it was just a bad way to end that fight, and the ref kind of dropped the ball on that one. He was not a normal ref that's usually around. I've seen him in the past. Probably does European cards, but yeah, he kind of dropped the ball on that one. So, and then another. I mean, this one was just full of some exciting prospects. I feel like I've said prospect 10 million times already, but Morgan Cherriere took on. What was the other guy's name? Manolo Zecchini. I mean, you could guess where he's from, Italy. His last name sounds like a pasta. But this guy, Morgan Cherriere, is a prospect that needs to be looked out for. Impressive performance. Really put it to him. Ended with a TKO. I believe it was a body shot, too, that ultimately led to the victory. Again, I do want to go back and watch these fights. I watched it from the very beginning to the end. Here in New York, these fights started at 12:30. Another early card, back-to-back early cards. Not as early as Singapore. 5 o'clock a.m. This one, 12:30 prelims. Main card, 3 o'clock. Not too bad. It's never bad. I love being able to wake up, get a workout in, get a breakfast in me, have a cup of coffee, and then sit on my couch, and it's 1 o'clock, and it's just... the fights are on a beautiful fall day in New York. It's just nothing like it. Nothing like it. Safe to say, I was in my happy place yesterday. Had a couple friends over. It was nice. Yeah. So, yeah, Morgan Cherriere, be on the lookout for him. Impressive victory. This one was kind of funny. The you want to talk about the crowd effect in this one? I was just looking at his first name. I know his last name is Logren, but Codlin Logren came into this one talking shit to the French people. Said a couple derogatory things towards the French, and let me see who he fought. Taylor Lap. Now see, we need the fucking Taylor Lapalus, another French fighter. So safe to say, other guy coming out of Ireland, had some hype behind him with a bunch of knockouts, but someone showed earlier in the week that all his wins were against people with a horrible record, combined record, something crazy like 3-75 was like all, like if you put the record of his last like 8 opponents together, something crazy like that, which is just like pretty much you're just beating a bunch of cans up. And Taylor Laplius, I'm not obviously familiar with him, but obviously it must just be a young prospect out of France. But the French crowd, it was a sight to see. This guy came out, the Irish guy, talking shit on Twitter earlier in the week to France, comes out, and the crowd just booed the fuck out of him. And he just kind of like took it in and just really like invited the boos. And he fought well, though. I got to say, he's a pretty good fight. Entertaining fight. They were, going back and forth. Logren, some good wrestling exchanges, or at least attempts to slow down the striking here and there. But ultimately, just lost a decision, and the French crowd was happy about that. So, but I think we'll see Logren again. I think he got people talking this week. He showed a pretty good display in his performance. And I have a feeling we're going to see him. Irish descent. The UFC loves their Irish fighters. So Ian Gary, Conor McGregor. I mean, what more do I need to say? Yeah, so I think we're going to be seeing more of this guy. And then, there was just some good fights sprinkled out in the prelims. Ange Lusa took on Reese McGee, who is also an Irish fighter. Reese McGee was getting beat up that whole fight, came back at the end with some crazy return fire. This guy had a chin of steel. Nora Canole, it sounds like cannoli, but Canole, could be Canole. I don't know, all these, another French fighter, Muay Thai fighter, first UFC debut, took on Jocelyn Edwards, who has been around, has a little bit of veteran status to her. Was able to pull a win against Jocelyn Edwards. I think that was kind of controversial to some people, but still, nonetheless, it was impressive. She came out with good energy, fed off the crowd, impressive striking. Can you scroll down a little bit? Just keep going. Oh, last person I want to shout out on this card. I'm happy that I got to see his name. Farid Basharat. This guy, I've been singing his praises. Him and his brother are savages, but more Farid. Farid Basharat is a fucking savage, a fucking disciplined, hardworking savage, well-rounded. Did I say that already? I think I did say well-rounded, but I mean, there's a reason why I'm repeating it. I mean, that's his game. Anywhere you want to go with him, he's just there. He reminds me of like early Ricardo Ramos, where Ricardo Ramos in the beginning, when he first came out of Brazil, he just had this thing about him where he was just dirty on the feet, and like you got to the floor and he was just, his jiu-jitsu was on par. And I don't know, he's still around, but like I don't know, I really thought Ricardo Ramos was going to be a champion at one point when he was on the rise. And I think I think all these dudes, when you're that talented, that anything can happen. But Farid Basharat, he's almost like a more fine-tuned version of like what Ricardo Ramos was in his early stages in his UFC career. And he took on Clayton Rodriguez, who is a Brazilian prospect in his own, and also I keep saying prospect. I gotta like think of another word for prospect. You got one for me? What is it? Oh, up and comer. Yeah. I know, but what are you gonna do? I mean, that's what it is. It's prospect. It fits the description. Clayton Rodriguez, though, although young in his own, young in his career, he was very talented and very game. He gave it a valid effort in this fight, but Farid Basharat just overwhelmed him in every place. Every time Rodriguez was able to return fire and land well on the feet, Basharat just jetted in with a really well timed takedown with great technique, and was able to just move through progressions in jiu-jitsu and end up in a mount, and ultimately choked him. Got him in a beautiful choke to end it. So just big shout out to Farid Basharat. That guy is a fantastic up-and-comer. And at this point, I don't even think he's an up-and-comer. I think he's made his presence known and is a terror. Could even become a dark horse of the bantamweight division. Bantamweight is just stacked these days. What was that, 30? Cool. This seems like a good time to transition into UFC 293, headlined by Israel Adesanya taking on Sean Strickland, the American, the grimy, out the mud American that likes to talk hella shit. The lead up to this one, we're in fight week, so I'm excited to hear these interviews and what's going to be going on leading up to this one. You already know Sean Strickland's going to have some outlandish things to say. Israel Adesanya is probably gonna get a little worked up this week, I have a feeling. Strickland was able to get a rise out of him in the earlier this year. They did that was last year at this point. They did a huge press conference with some matchups that were going to happen in the future, and they were both on stage, Strickland talking shit to Izzy. You know what I'm talking about if you're a fan. And if you're not, there was a big press conference where they were not even fighting each other, but they had a little exchange talking shit, and Israel got a little, I think Sean Strickland got a little under Izzy's skin in that thing. So there's no telling what's going to happen in this one. We're going to have a press conference, I'm sure. This is taking place in Sydney, Australia, so more Israel's backyard than Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland has a big flight to that usually, I mean, that's the longest flight you could do, Australia. So I feel like that's got to play some effect. I'm assuming he's there and been there for some time now, probably acclimating. And what is there to say about this one? What is my analysis going into this? I mean, I'm going to do a picks video, but if I'm going to break this one down, I'm going to say Israel Adesanya just chops the fuck out of his legs. Eventually, Sean Strickland's going to have to drop his hands and start defending those leg kicks. It's going to open up top, and Izzy's just going to pick him apart until Strickland's no longer conscious. So yeah, I'm going Israel Adesanya by TKO or knockout. I know he's been saying that he wants to get a jiu-jitsu win soon, a little win through grappling. So I don't think this is the one to do it to. I think Sean Strickland is a perfect opponent just for a highlight knockout win for Adesanya. Obviously, the thing about Izzy is he comes ready to fight. He's always respectful for his opponent's abilities. I've never seen him play around too much unless he knows that he's got it like that. So, and I think that he's also just wants to shut him up. So I think he's going to come in aggressive and ready to kill. And I think Strickland's going to have a rough night. I mean, he's looked good as of late. He does get better, a little bit better. He fine-tunes what he's good at. Yeah, sizable underdog, plus 440, Izzy minus 600. No, I don't see any value in the underdog in this one. I don't think it's worth it. Unless you want to maybe like bet that it goes to decision. I bet you that's a big underdog. 5-round fight. If Izzy can't get him out in 5 rounds, that would be a big moral win for Sean Strickland. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. I'm going to do a picks video on that. That's really my brain. There's nothing else to really say about it. Israel Adesanya, I mean, superstar. We all know his abilities. We all know what he's done. We know his resume. Even the casuals know he's made his way into mainstream. Has a movie coming out soon, a little documentary on himself. Hear good things about it. Can't wait to watch that. I think that comes out later this year, either October or November. Stylebender. So yeah, moving on. Co-main event: Tai Tuivasa, Alexander Volkov. Exciting heavyweight fight. This card does lack a little bit, but not with this fight. The co-main event is going to be exciting. Tai Tuivasa never disappoints. Australian fighter. We're fighting in Australia. The man notorious for the shoey, pour a beer in a used shoe, spit in it, drink it, rugby shit. Disgusting rugby guy. Also from the mud of Australia. Think he has a little bit of a gang affiliation in his upbringing. Not to say that's not saying anything about it, just noting it. Saying just he comes from a rough place and he's a rough guy and he's crazy but also has made his way to high up in the division to a point where he has to start taking himself a little bit more serious and utilize his skills and realize his God-given abilities and put it into the training camps so you could possibly become a champion because you're a badass dude. And we're going to see against Alexander Volkov, a grizzled vet in his own. I mean, this guy is of the top echelon of the heavyweight division, and if Tai Tuivasa can get a win over Volkov, it puts him right back there in the top 5 situation. So Tai Tuivasa ranked 6, Alexander Volkov 8, but Volkov did just have a fall from being higher ranked, and Tai Tuivasa obviously fought Ciryl Gane. That was pretty much for a title fight, so he got pretty high in his own right. Scroll down now. We'll move on from this one. Exciting though, cannot wait to hear the crowds pop for Tai Tuivasa. Manel Kape taking on Felipe Dos Santos. Not sure. They don't have his picture, so I can't put a face to Felipe. I'm not 100% not ranked. Obviously, we know Manel Kape coming off a win not too long ago. This guy is a very active fighter. He's a very talented fighter. So yes, not a lot of star power, but is entertaining nonetheless. So that these are people where if I tell anyone that's not familiar with UFC, I tell them when I'm explaining a fight like this, I say, you don't know these guys, but watch it. Guarantee you 100% it's going to be entertaining and you're going to see some impressive stuff. So, and then the card, is this the first scroll down? I just want to see if it's the first fight of the card. No, it's not. Okay. So then Justin Tafa, whose brother just got that knockout over Parker Porter. I broke that fight down. Justin Tafa got horrendously eye poked by Austin Lane, who he's fighting in this one. That fight had to get disqualified a couple weeks ago, and then they remade it for this card. Justin Tafa fighting at New Zealand, so it's his backyard. Crowd will be on his side for sure going into this one. Yeah, I'll break down this in my picks, but I'm a little tease. I got Justin Tafa in this one. Although Austin Lane did look good in the beginning of that fight and is a big guy, a lot taller, a lot rangier. But Justin Tafa just has that Mark Hunt ability of a one-hit walk-off. So I think they all train together too. Tyson Pedro starting the card off against Anton Turkalj, who I'm not familiar with, Swedish fighter. This guy looks Swedish. Look at him. He looks like Sunshine from Remember the Titans. And yeah, Tyson Pedro also trains with Tai Tuivasa, Australian fighter. Everyone knows Tyson Pedro. So, exciting. Crowd's going to be lit. Let's just scroll down. I just want to peek a couple names. Okay, Carlos Olberg, yeah, trains with Israel Adesanya's camp. This dude is like a model. He does a little modeling on the side, on the left. Dude is really built like an Adonis, fucking jacked, light heavyweight. Dude is just huge, good-looking guy. Taking on Da Woon Jung, little prospect out of South Korea. That should be an entertaining fight. Carlos Olberg has that kickboxing style. Oh, I love this. Jack Jenkins, fellas. If you're going to watch a prelim's always free on TV. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on ESPN. Look out for Jack Jenkins, man. I love Jack Jenkins. This guy is a dog. Always entertaining. Not familiar with his opponent, though. Chepe Mariscal. I'm assuming maybe a Dana White contender. I don't know. Usually I either know the name or a face, but this one not really ringing a bell to me. But I'm gonna go Jack Jenkins on this one. Jamie Malarkey, John Makdessi, cool fight there. Keep going. Oh, Nasrat Haparas, who I call Baby Kelvin Gastelum because he just looks like Kelvin Gastelum. He's on the card, taking on Landon Quinones, Dana White Contenders alumni. Keep going down. Let's see what the early prelims got. Mike Diamond, Blood Diamond, back in action. Shane Young, Gabriel Miranda. Okay, yeah. So fun. Australia card. Australia crowds are crazy. Israel Adesanya never disappoints. All the names I listed, a lot of fun fights to be watched on this one. I'll probably do a little bit of a live reaction video with this one. I'll probably do the co-main and the main event, maybe splice them together. and so we'll have that for you. And yeah, so I look forward to next week recapping this card. And yeah, I guess cue the music. Yeah, and that's about it, folks. So I think I've said it all. So with that being said, I'll let you be on your merry way. I'm gonna go on my merry way, and till next week, peace, love, goodbye.